And now that takes us to the main focus of our discussion. This is the craziest, most amazing, coolest stuff that I've ever worked with. I had the great pleasure and honor of meeting Enrique when he told me about this work and the results that he had. And I was absolutely astounded. And he very graciously, because we were so excited about this, translated his materials, which are courses in Spanish. He's from Uruguay, as is his colleague, Dr. Fabian Brotos. And this program is presented in 5 modules of core information, and a 6th that is a type of practicum to actually get more experience with the methodology. And the first 5 modules have 4 of 2 days each, the first 4, then the final is even longer at 3 days each. And the 700 pages of course material in those 5 modules is the incomplete psycho-emotional anatomy. You literally learn the conflicts related with every bone, joint, muscle, organ, nerve, and many diagnostic scenarios. And the kind of results we get when we apply this method, we get to the emotional origin of an issue, make everything work so much better. Indeed, if you get to the emotional core of something, you can permanently relieve it, not just for yourself, but you can literally break the cycle for your whole plan. It is said not only going forward in time, but backward in time. And before I introduce Enrique to describe this extraordinary body of work, and he has personally decoded 1,000 different issues, the most of the one in history. This is a woman on her birthday. And I was at an event that was sponsored by the Health Experts Alliance, where I've been invited to join their Epic Mastermind. The criterion is being considered in the top 1% of healthcare professionals. So that's kind of cool to be acknowledged that way. And this was an event of innovative doctors that really want to create a better medicine by making the best techniques available now. And she had a chronic neck issue. Her first and second cervical vertebrae, called the atlas and axis, were chronically getting out of alignment. So she had ongoing neck pain and stiffness. That was really a challenge, and it would get better with treatments, but never go away. And this is an issue that she could have worked with for months and had some relief, but it may never have gone away. And this is an example of the decoding process, because I mentioned it at lunch and said, could I please have that for my natal day? So I did, and this is the result.
Hi, I want to share my experience. I just had an amazing experience. So I was having issues with C1, C2 vertebrae going out of place and causing a lot of just downstream symptoms. And so we just worked together, and I was asked very, very simple questions that I was able to answer. I knew the answers to them right away, and I was able to resolve this issue and come to kind of new perspectives and really understanding my role in creating a situation that created this chaos in my physical body and the after effects. And what did that take? Three, maybe 4 minutes is I have full range of motion in my neck. I have no more pain. I had a congestion right up here, right on top of C1, and all of that is completely resolved, gone in literally just minutes.
Well done. What was the emotional experience?
The emotional experience, like going back and kind of like reliving and feeling what I felt during those conflict times and coming to the understanding of those are things that I didn't express that I should have expressed then. And really just feeling like a release of those emotions, and then an elation, really coming to the understanding of, in this situation, this particular person was serving a purpose for my highest good. And it's just, my perspective now is night and day.
Yeah. How do you feel now?
I feel at peace. I feel happy. I feel lighter. I feel a lot lighter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well done.
Thank you.
So, biological decoding, some of the coolest and most profound stuff on the planet. And there are a variety of methods that people use that get to the emotional core of things, yet it often requires going through a long list of things and maybe getting to it with a great result and maybe not. What I love about this method is that it's laser precise. If you have the diagnosis because of the 40 years of artisans doing this work for virtually everything, we know what the specific conflict is, or it's one of a small set of conflicts. And we often add this methodology in our clinic for those that are willing to do the process. And when we do it, generally, the results are that much better and tend to be significantly more long lasting or permanent. So the grand master of this art, who I had the synchronistic meeting with in Argentina when we both happened to be at the same event, has brought this massive perspective. And what I'd say about it is, even if you don't plan to be a practitioner of this art, what you learn in terms of your own emotional landscape is incredibly liberating. Every time you release one of these unresolved unconscious conflicts, you literally get more of your brain back. You have more capability, more resilience, and you resolve it for yourself and your ancestry. So it's super cool. I'd encourage everyone to do it. We certainly would love more artisans of this art, because as we relieve these conflicts and you become empowered, it makes a difference for the whole, not just personally. So with that introduction, let me bring in the maestro, who is one of the three leading luminaries, and I'll present the other two shortly, Enrique Boran.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, please excuse my English. I use it twice a week, twice a year, more or less. Well, when we met with Dr. Todd, it was long ago, and we talked about this. And I study this biological coding in. I'm biologically coded since 2003, and I've been authorized teacher, professor since 2007, and I started teaching in South America, in Argentina, in Buenos Aires at that time, and extending it to various cities within Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, Mexico, and the US. Next year, condition permitting, we will start also teaching in Brazil. Together with my colleague decoders, Laura Otero, my wife actually, Isabel Benaruz, Dr. Fabian Broadus, and of course, Dr. Toro Vukaitis, we are programming to restart live events after the pandemic in California. We all have to introduce you to basic concepts of the discipline turned down in a science because of the level of investigation we are reaching. There are so many things to say, we will need more time to do it properly, so I will start immediately. This is not an alternative medicine, not at all. It is completely complementary to traditional medicine. We work side by side with it. While the traditional medicine takes care of the signs, the symptoms, the diagnosis, and the treatment, we look for the psycho-emotional origin of the disease. While health professionals are only observing the behavior of the disease, and in some cases psychiatric diseases, we take care of finding the real reason for the disease. I suppose you may frown at this declaration, but we found that the disease can be reversed when we understand it, not when we fight against it. The main reasons is that the disease is not something that we get just because we have some kind of karma or bad luck. All the diseases are intoxications. We may intoxicate ourselves with chemicals, alcohol, tobacco, drugs, etc. But interestingly, there are not the most common intoxications. We get intoxication the most with our own emotions. We hear from time to time the doctors say that some illnesses are produced by stress. The problem is that that won't help. Why? Because it is too general. Calming down the person with a pill or sending them to the Pacific island will not be the ultimate solution. We are not talking about general stress when we work on an illness. That is where biological coding comes in. The brain is controlling each and all our cells. There are no cells that should not be there, or cells missing, or cells that are doing something else but what the brain ordered them to do. The brain can accelerate our metabolism, slow it down, add extra emergency cells, producing, for example, a stomach adenocarcinoma, or ulcerate the tissues like in the bronchial cancer. Yes, I'm saying that the diseases, even the ones that the medicine consider produced by microorganisms or viruses, are perfectly produced and controlled by our own brain. The reason is that the diseases are not evil. They are special and perfect solution of survival. The diseases are not there to kill us, but to save our lives. If I ask you what are statistically the main causes of death in human beings, I suppose you will start with the word cancer, or accidents, or drug addictions, or palsy, or you name it. These are statistics for one kind of living being, since that living being used statistics. 100 years back, 200. The information received from the environment or from our own thoughts is real to our subconscious. If our subconscious is detecting a high stress, it will react automatically to that impulse to guarantee our survival in the next instant. The solution is to lower the stress. Why? To give us more chances of survival. So we have an unusual energy detected within us. It has to be managed in some way. At that precise moment, the brain reads how we define the experience in our thoughts and feelings, like a tag that would provide the organ it needs to activate a solution. I can't digest what he did to me, and if it is strong enough, it will order to produce more cells with some modifications to attend the emergency call I can digest. It will produce a stomach adenocarcinoma, endodermic layer, to produce extra chloric acid to digest what's in the stomach. It should react to the verb. It reacts to the verb digest and to the stress level. Immediately, the brain takes this I can digest emotion, and it will hide it in the subconscious because it was associated to a huge stress, and the brain is there to prevent, when possible, any excess of energy in order to fulfill his unique obligation. We suppose there are a lot of obligations in the brain, but there is only one, actually, to save our lives in the next moment. Previously, I said that if I asked you to tell me what are the main causes of death in human beings, you would answer a particular menu of possibilities. They will be all wrong because of two reasons. The first one, human beings are in nature not very different to all other animals. And statistically, since the appearance of animal life on Earth, there are two main causes of death for all of us: exhaustion and distraction. An animal exhausted or distracted is a dead animal in nature. The main proof is that we lose a third part of our lives sleeping to recover our energy, and with it, our alert. Diseases are not killers. They are just special survival solutions. We do not die because of the disease. We die because of the stress that a situation that we can't solve is producing, plus the fear of the disease itself. When it comes to his disease, we don't say that some illnesses are originated by some stress. We can find exactly what conflict the person experienced to create that disease. Once the brain receives the content of the information related to what caused the stress, the cells reverse to normal functioning and the illness is eliminated. How many times? Well, it depends of the kind of disease and the kind of repair your cells need. You hear just minutes ago a lady saying what happened with their vertebra in 1 and 2 in 4 minutes. We have a lot of information regarding the conflict associated to diseases. We will be translating all our information as soon as possible. Together with my wife Laura, we have already 4 books in Spanish. One of them, the most practical one, the Blue Book of Biological Decoding, is in English in a phone application and contains about 700 pages of decodings. The other 3 are microbiological and viral decoding, biological decoding renal and urinary system, and the bigger one, biological decoding cardiovascular decoding. We have one of the most important experts in endocrine decoding. You will hear him in some minutes, just here, Dr. Fabian Bratos. We have Isabel Benarus, an expert of bioreprogramming and also biological decoder. We have Laura Otero, a trained biological, also using biological decoding as a complement to of his professional work and investigation on stem cells. Our aim is to create a society and to build the world's most important and well-reputed school. You are welcome to join in. And I can guarantee that once you experience it, you'll love it. So I will let I will give some more time to all other persons here. And I hope you understand. If you have some question, you just ask Ruby to receive the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Todd, before you keep going with the next introduction, there was a lot of people that joined us a little bit late, and they didn't hear the disclaimer that we made at the beginning about biological decoding and the questions that were submitted online. There's 250 questions that were submitted with very specific information about the participant and symptoms. Mm-hmm. And each situation is very unique. Mm-hmm. Therefore, all of the answers that you're going to hear tonight from the decoders are going to be in general terms. They're going to be addressing the diseases, ailments, and circumstances around it, what causes it. For instance, not being able to digest something, not necessarily your specific question. What we're going to aim to do is generalize all these questions, put them together, and create short answers for you via video between the decoders and myself to give you some of those answers. Individually, we cannot give you answers to the symptoms or the issues that you have here in a general format as this. One, for privacy. We need to maintain privacy of all the participants. And your circumstances, your emotions are individual to you. So you will have to connect with a decoder, and we will provide you with a list of all the decoders that will be available to help you. You can listen, and we'll give you the information. Anything that you hear tonight will start playing in your subconscious and start helping you into that process of healing. So back to you, Dr. Dahl.
Hey, well, thanks so much for that clarification, Ruby. Thank you much for that beautiful description of the principles upon which decoding resides, that it's fundamental to millions of years of evolutionary history, that we are subconsciously designed to survive into the next moment. That trumps all other considerations if you don't make it into the next moment. And I found this immensely useful. So that was a wonderful introduction to it. And also that our goal isn't to decode all the questions. This is really more of an exemplar. If you really want to learn it, the next training is fairly soon. It's November 17th and 18th for Module 1 and November 19th and 20th for Module 2. The mentor and artisan, Isabel, will be teaching that. Then Enrique will come early next year to teach Modules 3, 4, and 5. And if it's a deep personal question, then you can actually go into the decoding process itself with one of the people trained, or ideally become trained yourself, either as a personal liberating factor or to assist others. So next we have Isabel Benarus, and she and Enrique both were students of Claude Sabat, who was a Frenchman that took the original work of Dr. Harmer, who ingeniously developed this method in Germany. And when it was taken further by Claude Sabat, our two leading luminaries in this decoding realm, before we bring on the mysteriousness of dental decoding, were trained by him. And Isabel, like Enrique, is an incredibly gifted artisan of biological decoding. And her work that has taken it further is called bioreprogramming. The basic decoding course gives the core tools of how to achieve the decoding. There's a process for how to ask the right questions in the right way. And her method of bioreprogramming is an expanded toolbox to get to the root of it, to achieve the decoding, which is an elegant expansion of the system that uses other methodologies in psycho-emotional medicine. And I've seen her do incredible magic just within our classes as people have wanted things to decode. So let me take it to our next amazing artisan, Isabel Benarus.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Todd, for this introduction. So I'm not sure if my video is being switched or not. I don't see much right now. But anyway, so yes, and thank you, Enrique, as well. It's been really a blessing to be connected to biological decoding years ago when I met Dr. Sabat, because at the time people had no idea that, in fact, the origin of health issues were connected to emotional conflicts. And so I created bioreprogramming because at the time we didn't have a lot of tools. It's one thing to understand the origin of a disease, to know where it's coming from, to know what created it. And then if we want to really resolve something because it's so unique, then we have to go further and really look at the context of the person, exactly how they felt. And we need also to reframe. So it's in terms of reframing that bioreprogramming can help you. And when I talk about biological decoding, like Enrique told you, we have 3 levels to look at. You have the level of your mind, you have the level of your brain, and you have the level of your body. And so when you have a problem in your mind, it can be something that you can deal with. It's a stress that is quite easy to figure out. And because at night, that's going to let you sleep and you're going to be okay and wake up the next day refreshed. But there are these types of stress that are not doing that, and they are called unmanageable stresses. So what is an unmanageable stress? It is a stress that keeps you on the fight or flight mode. It's a stress that stops you from eating, sleeping at night. It is maybe a betrayal. It is the loss of the loved one. It's a worry for a child. It's a divorce. It's a separation, something that's very big and for which you don't have a solution in your conscious mind. So based on your felt experience, your uniqueness, you're going to feel a certain way about a story, something that happened that shocked you. And because you cannot find a solution, your brain is going to create a metaphor of what it means to you using your organs to express that. So maybe a man was fired and he feels, I cannot swallow that they fired me after 30 years. Maybe a woman feels that the way her boss is talking to her at work is totally inappropriate and she cannot accept that. And that would resonate with her intestines, for example. It could be that someone cannot see something because it's too horrifying. So the image that they remember in their eye is impossible to bear, and they will create a problem with their eyes. And so those stresses that we create and our organs are responding and expressing a solution that is biological momentarily is it's important to understand at another level as well. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Did you know that when we are in the womb, we are actually downloading the conflicts of our parents? What that means is that if mom, is very stressed, if dad has problems at work, the wishes of the parents, their desires, the climate surrounding the home, also good things as well. Anything that's happening during the time between the moment of conception, not when we're born, the moment of conception until 1 year old, 3 years old, and sometimes beyond that, is going to be downloaded in our subconscious mind and in our cells, the memory of that. And interestingly, I don't know if some of you wonder why your life has taken a certain direction, but consciously it's not at all what you want. And you feel that, it's you would like to change the address on your GPS, but it's really not working. Maybe it's not the relationship that you want. Maybe it is that you work very hard, but you don't make any money. You wonder why. Maybe you want to have a child, but you can't have a child. So all those things that we wonder, why is it like that with all the efforts that I'm making? It's probably related to the parental project, because we are programmed to express a solution to the struggles of our parents. Sometimes we'll repeat the struggles. Sometimes we'll repeat and resolve the struggles because everything is imprinted during that time. And so if you imagine a woman, let's say she's pregnant with a little girl, and she wants to separate from her husband because he's not nice to her, he's drinking, he's having affairs, and her stress, remember when we talked about stress before, her stress in her mind while she's pregnant is about, I want to separate. I would like to separate from this man. I'm not happy, but I can't separate because I have 2 other little children and I'm pregnant and I'm not independent. I don't make any money. So her stress, her thoughts, her desire, her wishes is to separate, but it cannot be achieved. And it's creating a big stress for her. Now she's pregnant. Well, the child is actually going to download the story, and the role that the child will play will be directly connected to that story because the stress was big for the mom. And I'm sure you can already imagine that. What would be the story of that girl? How is that going to play out in her life? The fact that her mother wanted to separate but couldn't, and that created stress for her. Well, actually, she's going to meet someone that she really loves at 18 and she'll separate from him. We could think, well, that's normal. She's 18. But then she's seriously getting engaged at 21 and she's going to break up the marriage and it's not going to happen. And then things are moving on. She's 29. Now she's getting married. Finally, she has someone she loves, but she's going to divorce at 34. And it keeps on going because her program is actually separation. She's symbolically separating from every man that she meets so that she can liberate her mom, who could not separate when she was pregnant. So that is so interesting because we express a role for our parents when we could call that a loyalty. We're loyal to our parents that way. We attract circumstances so that we can let go of them or resolve them for them. And so she attracted in that story all the perfect men, the perfect symbolically for her, so that she could separate from them. She could also have a certain type of illness that is called eczema, because eczema is connected to separation. You know that our brain knows if we're in contact, we're not in contact with another person when we touch them. So if symbolically I feel separated or really separated from someone, I could have a story of the skin, and we'll explain that in our modules more precisely, what's happening at a cell level. But eczema is an illness that is connected to separation. So we understand that we carry stories that do not belong to us. It could be a man who was, conceived, and dad absolutely did not want to have a child. And then this man in his life is going to attract a woman who cannot get pregnant because they have fertility problems. But that is resolving the conflict of his father symbolically, who didn't want to have a child. But consciously, he wants to have a child. Unconsciously, the brain is programmed not to, as a loyalty to dad who didn't want to have a child. So we can look at all those things. They are really fascinating. If you imagine, for instance, a woman, and that's the example that comes to my head, whose mother had someone that she adored before meeting her husband, but she couldn't be with that person that she adored. And she lived the marriage, and particularly that phase when she was pregnant, thinking, oh, my love is outside. I will never be with them. And now I'm married because it's the right thing to do with this man that I'm not in love with. It could be that the offspring is also acting that way, and they are married and they wonder why. They always want to think that there is someone else that would be better for them outside of the marriage. And that's also a program. So we will see when we do, I think it's level 1, the project purpose. It's fascinating. And when we use bioreprogramming, we're able to go back in time, meet our parents, symbolically, of course, on a timeline when they made those decisions, when they had those struggles and stresses. And we can actually tell them, this does not belong to me. I do not want to express this for you anymore. And I'm going to do something different. I'm going to create my own program. And so that's what we can show you. It's fascinating how within minutes or within hours, you can completely change your life when you do biological decoding or bioreprogramming, because instead of going to maybe therapy for 20 years, trying to understand why your life is the way it is, you can actually simply find your program, resolve your program, and move on with the life that you want, and also resolve illnesses like Dr. Todd showed you on a video, sometimes within minutes. So, well, thank you. It was really great to speak with you about this. Thank you, Dr. Todd. Thank you, Enrique. And now it's going to be Dr. Fabien's turn, I think.
Hey, thank you, Isabel. I think some of those stories may hit home to a number of the listeners. And that really is a beautiful description of the concept of, at the deepest level, even recreating a personal timeline so that the future after that recreation can outplay in a whole different way.
Thank you.
Such incredible stuff. And to make this even more complete, the most extraordinary decoding that almost feels like pure magic. It all feels like magic. This is like pure magic, is a realm called dental decoding. And Dr. Fabian studied with eminent decoders, including Enrique and others in the dental realm. He's a third-generation orthodontist, so he's actively in the practice of working with people's teeth. And the course material is absolutely extraordinary. And for an understanding, we go back to embryogenesis. There are 3 germ layers that then form all the different types of tissues and organs. And the ectodermal layer is notable for creating the entire nervous system and the skin, our contact with the outside world, and interestingly, the teeth. And he will describe that the teeth have a crystalline matrix, which is almost like a mini radio that's communicating with the brain, and each tooth goes to a particular part of the brain. And what's most amazing was that if you give him a panographic x-ray of the mouth, which is basically an x-ray of all the teeth and dental bone, he can literally write a 32-chapter book about their ancestral dynamics, their personal motivations, the life dynamics that they have, the whole extraordinary set of experiences and predispositions they have. And like all of the decoding, where it is an interactive process of asking questions and getting answers, or even rewriting a timeline script, he can do all that without the person saying a word. And so many times in the course, a person will present a dental situation, and so far he's been 100% accurate. Even one situation where he said, oh, that person might have been kidnapped, and they were. There's a set of slides that he's very kindly allowed me to share, where a woman had a canine tooth, the case of Noelia, whose canine tooth never came in, just a little teeny tip came out. And 6 months of orthodontics didn't really make much of a difference in terms of its location. And the issue was decoded, and in 3 days, it moved into the ideal position. So these forces are powerful. And with that introduction, I'd like Dr. Fabian to add this other element of the total picture.
Okay. Well, thanks, Dr. Todd. Thank you very much for your words. Thanks, Enrique and Isabel, as well, for your introduction. And here we are to just tell something about dental decoding. When we say dental decoding, is that we are trying to translate to the code, the secret code that it's secretly hidden in our teeth. Our teeth are inside of our mouth. Everything that you need for life enters through your mouth. You can eat, you can drink, you can breathe through your mouth, and you can express yourself through your mouth. You can talk. So you can nutrate from things from your outside, and you can nutrate as well from symbolic psycho-emotional things from your outside, and you express yourself through your mouth. Your teeth are in the middle of these transits of things that are going inwards and outside of you. So teeth are like archetypes, relational archetypes. An archetype is like a mold that you are going to look for every time you need to express something regarding that archetype. We know in psychology that we have 32 different archetypes, relational archetypes, and we have 32 teeth. So every teeth is an archetype, and every teeth is a bioelectrical organ, because it's a crystal, and crystals generates electricity that is sent to the control center in the brain. So when you have a conflict, a psycho-emotional conflict, a relational psycho-emotional conflict, your teeth are going to inform that situation to your brain, and your brain will adapt to that conflict, changing the polarity of those crystals. And if the conflict is very, very important or very strong, it may change things at the DNA level to give to the next generation the perfect symbolical solution. That's why we have different levels where we first understand all the general concepts we need to understand about teeth. Then we understand all the orthodontic issues you may go through, because it's a very different relational reality you may live if you have your teeth in normal position or twist or with a malposition. So then we have another module regarding periodontical issues, gums, and then we have a retreat where we explore all those memories inside of us. As we were saying, teeth are bioelectrical organs, and they have these memories, these archetypes where we remember things. Let's use an example just to answer one of the questions I received. For example, when you have first molars, we have central incisors, lateral incisors, canines, premolars, two premolars, first and second premolar, and then you have three molars in each side, first, second, and third molar, which is the wisdom tooth. For example, the first molar, the upper right first molar, is an archetype that shows us the father's gaze, because everything goes to the first relation between you, your mother, and your father. Your father's gaze is the gaze, for example, of somebody with more power than you, for example, your boss. If when you were a child and in your young adolescence, you didn't have the gaze of your father, the gaze of approval of what you are doing, of the things you have merit, you don't have his approval. If you don't have this approval, you will have in your memory, in this archetype, a conflict of not being approved. It's like you are not self-confident of what you do. If you look into the lower right first molar, the one who choose with the upper right first molar, you will have the recognition. You can live recognition in two ways: recognition by your identity for who you are, or recognition of the things of what you do, your merit. When you close your mouth, you are making those two molars touching. The upper right, the gaze of your father, the gaze of the boss, the gaze of someone with higher in the hierarchy. And it is touching how you feel recognized through the things you do. And if in this archetype, for example, when you were a young adolescent, you were not recognized by this boss or this father function, then when you're maybe 30 years, you're at your work and your boss, and you have a problem with your boss where he do not recognize your work. So it will touch this archetype, this conflictual archetype of not feeling recognized. If that happens, you will have a problem, because, for example, you have this lower molar with its roots, and you have the upper molar with its roots. So when they touch each other, they are creating electricity. So when they touch each other, each time you close your mouth, they will create this circuit that will inform that you are in conflict. So your brain will make this, will create a change of polarity, for example, in the lower first molar. And when you have this change of polarity, you will have, together with sugar, and together with bacteria, you will have the possibility of a cavity. So when you close your mouth, you will not have this circuit because now you have a hole in that place. So in this way, we can understand that even cavities, they have an absolute uh, um, biological logic for getting out of stress. Every cavity, each one of the 197 cavities that you may have in your mouth has a different decodification and is telling us about an active conflict in the relational life of the person. So it's very important to understand that cavities, the same happens with problems with your gums or problems with the position of your teeth or everything that happens in your mouth. It's always an adaptation to your reality regarding your relations. Relations are in your teeth because it's what you are looking for when you have to relate with the world, not just in the physical way, also in the symbolical way. So that's why all the psychology of people are on teeth. And when you decode that secret code of what is hidden in those pathologies or positions and or shape of roots or everything, you can understand what is this reality holding and what memory is holding and why you act the way you are acting. And just being conscious of this reality is the first step for you to change that situation that will allow you to take new decisions, different decisions to create a permanent change in your life, looking for what you really want. So that's why dental decoding, in my opinion, it's like an arrow that goes right into the center of the conflict, into the relational conflict that will help us to lead our lives to a happier life. So I hope that this example would help you to understand what we're trying to do here and why all the different views of decoding we all are sharing here, they complete a system that will allow you to understand that our psychology, our emotions, and our body are just part of the same system. And you cannot just take care of one of those aspects without taking care of the others. It's an integrative medicine. That's why I always bless the moment where all the universe conspired to all of us being together here and trying to put everything together to find a new level of health, not just the health of your body, the health of all the levels that we are made of. So that's why I wanted to thank you again, Dr. Todd, for this opportunity. I hope this brief explanation would help.
That was fantastic. And in the time we have, it's really just a crystallized summary of some of the understanding, but it paints a picture really of getting into the psycho-emotional core of the issues that can express itself as issues in the physical body. And the teeth are extraordinary because they're, as you described, literally like direct connections to the brain and might even be a more precise way of understanding these deeply rooted relational issues. And it's written on their teeth. They don't even have to tell you, just know by virtue of being an artisan of the art. So then you feel like you are really a magician because they don't even have to tell you what it is. It's so cool.
very much. Thank you very much.
Mhm. And we have a little time to do some exemplary discussion of issues and how they might be decoded.
I
Hmm.
have a couple here that are not in a large group that could be grouped with something else. One of them would be narcolepsy.
For those that don't know what that is, I was just demonstrating. Narcolepsy is the ability to fall asleep at any time of the day, not just at night, especially during a presentation.
So who wants to take it on?
Well, actually, we even have the decoding of narcolepsy.
Oh, so please share.
What is it, Enrique?
It's if somebody has narcolepsy, in one moment in his life, he was afraid to be buried alive.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
One that is here cannot be grouped. Smoking.
Smoking helps people who can't breathe in their lives. If I smoke, if I inhale a cigarette, I feel that I'm creating space in my bronchi because maybe I feel that I cannot express myself. Maybe I have recurrent territorial issues in my family. Maybe I was repressed by my dad. Maybe now I have a partner with whom I cannot express myself, so I continue smoking. And it could be related to the fear of death as well, because it's the lung. So I inhale and I bring air to my lung based on me feeling that maybe I can't breathe. So the lung is specific when we talk, for example, about the alveoli, about the fear of death. If I'm afraid of dying, I need more alveoli to breathe. So the more cells I have in my lungs, the more chances I have to stay alive, to breathe. So the fear of death is connected to it and the bronchi. And I need to create space and air. And I would look at the childhood programs or problems of being repressed. Maybe Enrique can add something to that. Smoking.
Well, actually, is a problem normally with the father. And it is related, as you said, because of what somehow to the fear of death, but also it's related to the need of receive the comfort of the father, the contact with the father.
Interesting.
Right. And I think you've mentioned in the class that the fire element is specifically related to the father.
That's good. A loner question. Adoption. Does being adopted affect biological decoding or your biological codes? Fabian, I'll give you that one. I think that one we can find it in the teeth.
Can you repeat it? Adoption, you said?
Yeah, it's does being adopted affect your biological codes? So you're decoding the story in your body.
What we learn is that you have a code, a biological code that comes from your biological parents. But after the individualization phase that begins 3 years old, when you are biologically you start your biological independence. If after that moment, you will start to share your psychological archetypes or your adoptive parents. So you have to look for psychological archetypes of behavior in your new parents, but everything that has to see with biological survival will be encoded in the biological DNA that belongs to the biological parents.
That's not an easy one.
And there's another
Yeah.
comment I can make on that. I mean, adoption is really quite profound. One of the most famous adopted figures was Steve Jobs. And he gave us these. And the Apple computer that I'm connecting with all of you on. And you may know, those of you who are viewing, that he died of an unusual cancer, which it was a rare cancer of the tail of the pancreas, which is a hormone-producing tumor. I believe it was a glucagonoma. And this shows the incredible precision of this art, because the decoding for cancer of the tail of the pancreas is not having the name of the father, and he was adopted.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah,
Actually,
he also may have a problem in his lower left first molar, which is the father's recognition through identity.
yes, and there is something interesting related to adoption, because actually two things. We noticed that a person who's a family who's adopting a baby, I would not say a percentage, but it is a very high percentage that that family is adopting a baby because somewhere in the genealogy a baby was given in adoption, and they are recovering that baby symbolically. And actually, the person, if you ask an adopted person, who's your father, who's your mother, they will say it's the one that that adopted me. Actually, we have to decode a person because, as Fabian said, they are how do you say, merging all the experiences of the adoptive family to the, as if it was precisely the blood baby of the adopted family. And we have many examples of connections of that kind.
Right. You might repeat that because the connection broke up a little bit, that last point you were making.
Well, when you are when we decode an adopted person, we consider the adoptive parents as their blood parents, because as an organ, to be in that family, they have to be compatible with the conflicts of that adoptive family.
Mm.
So otherwise they are rejected as an organ that has to be implanted, and it is not conflictually to the
You're breaking up.
Yeah.
I think I can clarify that point. Yeah, because of the connection. Let me just clarify the point, and it's a profound one, which is the point that the conflicts that the child inherits from his biological parents. The adopted parents have to have complementary conflicts, those that are in a line, or it won't be a successful adoption. Similarly, when there's a discussion in Enrique's and Isabel's courses, the people that we connect with in partnership relationships are generally due to complementary conflicts. We attract the person who is just ideal to trigger the conflict, so it forces us to grow and evolve to overcome that. And then things can go a lot more smoothly. Or we might find that it's not ideal for us because we're not driven unconsciously by our conflicts.
So that goes into closing, that any ailment, disease, condition that we are expressing in our body, our brains around us, it's not necessarily something negative. It's an opportunity to bring it up to the surface, to heal it, to release it. And it's beautiful. Thank you. We're going a little bit past the hour.